Well, good evening, laddies, lasses, and lassos. Welcome to the click. You smell absolutely astounding today. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. Do you know what we're gonna do here today? That is right, we're gonna look into r/TraumatizeThemBack. And there's nothing quite as traumatizing as suddenly hearing your name in a click video. Is there? Clara? Yes, indeed, Clara. How are you doing today, Clara? Yes, okay, did I mess up my whole camera thing? See what you did, Clara? Oh my god, Clara, I got distracted because you smell so incredibly nice today, Clara. So anyway, we're gonna look at a subreddit called r/TraumatizeThemBack, which is a beautiful subreddit of stories where people just get back at their bullies, or people being harassy, or weird, or touchy, and it's always incredibly satisfying. So I do hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy having you here. Mwah.
Oh yes, indubitably, let's get into the stories.
r/TraumatizeThemBack. Ask me why, and I will tell you. The same thing happened to me twice, once when I was 12 and again at 20. I'm almost 70 now, so it happened in a different time with different cultural norms. What happened with female bodies was private and not to be discussed, ever. The first instance happened in the 60s and the second in the 70s. Think a few years past Mad Men. In 7th grade, I raised my hand and asked a male teacher if I could go to the bathroom. He asked me why, obviously trying to embarrass me. I muttered that I just needed to go to the bathroom. He wouldn't let it go until I finally, in anger and embarrassment, shouted, "Because I'm on my period!" He stammered a bit and finally told me to just go. When I was 20, my manager walked up to my desk and asked me where I had been. I answered that I had been in the bathroom and that I had informed my coworkers where I was going. Our department was on the 2nd floor of the building. He accused me of lying, that he had sent someone into the bathroom and I hadn't been there. Wait a second, so the manager was sending people to stalk them in the bathroom? Do you employ people as bathroom stalkers? I mean, granted, this is like 50 years ago, but still, that's wild. I asked if they went to the 2nd floor bathroom or the 3rd floor bathroom. He said 2nd floor, of course. I told they would have found me if they had looked in the 3rd floor bathroom. Predictably, he asked why I would go up to the 3rd floor. I stage whispered, "Because I am on my period, and the 2nd floor bathroom doesn't have tampons, it only has napkins. I don't use napkins, I use tampons." He stammered and stuttered that until next time I had to use the 3rd floor bathroom. I was to tell him I was going there, but I didn't have to tell him why. Oh my god, for people being so insistent to like push for personal information, especially regarding going to the bathroom, they're really sensitive when push actually comes to shove, aren't they? Even if it wasn't regarding this subject in particular, what answer are you expecting really? Like me to describe my shit in graphic detail? Congratulations, boss, enjoy the information. The next month, I told him I was going up to the 3rd floor bathroom, paused for a second, and then said, "You know why?" Thankfully, I had gained a bit of self-confidence by the time it happened again. And he was also probably brought down a little bit because he was so traumatized. He doesn't like it when people shout at him they're on their period in the middle of the office. Isn't that a beautiful takeaway, though? So many of the people that are so eager to push boundaries and ask invasive questions are also, like, really easily offended by the answers. I just find that amazing. r/TraumatizeThemBack. My response to, "Will you watch my kids?" Update. I found out the woman works in the adult industry. She propositioned my neighbor this morning and she's on our cameras parading up and down the street in a crop top and booty shorts. Mystery solved why she wanted away from her kids. This sounds like something taken straight out of like a American reality drama show. Hey guys, I was told to share my post from Am I the Butthole? Apologies for formatting, I am on mobile. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. Boy, do I have a doozy for you guys. Let me set this scene for you. This past weekend, my boyfriend and I are tearing our roof apart, getting ready to put a new one on. Huge pain in the butt, working up on a very steep pitch in sunny 90-degree weather, not a cloud in the sky. We are doing this ourselves because hired help is way too expensive, plus he has some experience with this sort of thing when he worked in construction. Anyways, it's just the two of us plus my mom on the ground running and grabbing tools for us as we need them. At about 1 o'clock, we are covered in filth and hot as hell. Shingles everywhere in the yard, scaffolding and ladders up, harnesses on. You get the picture. Any passing Joe can tell we are busy. And here comes a camper pulled up by a U-Haul truck parked right in the side of the road in front of our neighbor. Bunch of kids and 2 adults pile out, and we don't pay much attention. Not long after that, a woman waddles up to us and says, "Excuse me?" I see her and walk over, and she says, "I was wondering if you might be able to keep an eye on my kids while I walk up to the convenience store to get a couple of things." What? Excuse me? I look where she points and sees two kids, maybe 6 to 8 years old, playing in the street, and another one, maybe 10 to 11, hanging out in the camper. Now, I am flabbergasted here. You can clearly see we are working, for one thing, doing a very dangerous job. For any other, we don't know you. I completely blanked for a second, unable to comprehend the audacity this woman has, and I said, "We're really busy right now, and I don't have time to stop to watch anyone." She responds with, "Oh, please, I'll be really quick." Okay, now I am pissed. You're asking total strangers to watch your darn kids. I have never seen you before, and you have no idea who we are. I could be a child-boiling witch with a bubbling cauldron in my kitchen, and you wouldn't even know. So my smart butt mouth kicked in before my brain did. I am probably a butthole for my response, but I said, "Well, actually, I am a registered naughty offender, and I'm not supposed to be around children." Out of all the responses I could have imagined, that was not one of them. Holy shit. With that, I smirked and walked away with an audible gasp from her as she hurried off to shuffle her kids back in the camper. That was probably the last thing she expected out of the mouth of another woman. Of course, I'm not one, but I hope I got the point across. You don't trust the care of your children to total strangers. Not for 1 minute. They are still there today, looks like they're living out of the camper, and the neighbor does not know them either. I mean, the update edit sort of explains the business there, I suppose, but it's still a wild thing to just ask random people to watch your kids. I would never do that in a million years. One thing if it's like a neighbor, you know, chilling in a sun chair in their yard or something and be like, "Hey, can my kid kick a ball in your yard for 15 minutes while I'm away?" Like, that's one thing, you know, just neighborhood stuff. But if you literally don't know the person, oh my god. I mean, for the kids' sake, I do hope they learned a lesson, but man, I did not think that was going to be the response in a billion years. That was amazing. OP's neighbor steals OP's package and regrets it. I, 30F, am a hobbyist. As such, I order additions to my collections that are delivered via post or courier. Now, my entitled neighbor, 28F, moved into her house roughly 3 months ago with her 9-year-old son. I was close friends with the people who lived there previously, and I had them listed as trusted neighbors to deliver packages to if I'm not home. Since she moved in there, I changed that with the post services, but unfortunately there are a few of the delivery people who have not had the information. Sadly, I have had a few parcels delivered to the entitled neighbor, and when I have gone to collect my parcel, she had denied knowledge or given me an already open package and used the excuse that her son accidentally opened it. What a scummy neighbor. Even if it is delivered by mistake, I mean, that happens all the time. I mean, I get letters to my neighbors sometimes in my mailbox, for example, probably because they're just bunched up in a pile, you know, with delivery people. You just put them by the door or put them in the neighbor's mailbox again or whatever. Like, people that do this lack such respect, and it's so shameless as well because you have to look your neighbor in the eye and give them the open package. I would just die out of shame. I don't know how these people do it. It is inhuman. So last week, I had a delivery coming with several special and expensive additions to my collection, and decided to work from home to make sure I received my package. I started work at my usual time of 9 AM, having double-checked that my doorbell was set to its loudest setting, and got on with my work. I have a tendency to get absorbed into my work, so by the time I realized that it was 12:30 PM and my package was supposed to have been delivered before then, I started to worry. The first thing I did was check my emails to see if I'd been notified of a delay, and my heart sank when I saw the message saying my package had been delivered to my selected neighbor. I left my house and went straight to my neighbor's house to knock on her door. When she opened the door, she gave me a look that said she was definitely not happy to see me. Me. Hi, I just had a notification that my package had been delivered here. Please, may I have it? There is nothing here. I was emailed by the courier service that they delivered it to your address. Entitled neighbor was obviously getting angry. I just freaking told you there's nothing here for you. Please, can you? Before I could finish, she slammed the door in my face. I was obviously annoyed and knocked on her door again, and waited. But she completely ignored me for at least 10 minutes. Feeling frustrated, I went back home and called the courier service, wanting the delivery person to come back and make sure I got my package back. I was on hold for quite a while before I finally got through to someone. Just as I was telling the service operator what was happening, my doorbell rang several times. Then there was repeated loud banging coming from my front door, followed by the bell again. I asked the operator to hold on for a moment while I checked out who was at my door. I opened the door and there was entitled neighbor, red-faced and with her son who was crying.
There is a freaking huge spider loose in my house because of you.
Yes, I collect tarantulas, true spiders, and lots of other inverts. At first, I was scared that entitled neighbor had harmed one of my new tarantulas, but I couldn't keep the sarcasm out of my voice. Oh, so you did get my package after all?
Yes, and now there's a huge freaking spider in my living room. You need to get it out of my house now!
One moment. I closed my door and talked to the operator who heard everything. Since I had already told them what was in the package, they were laughing down the phone. I told them I would have to go rescue my spider from the crazy Karen. I grabbed a catch cup and a paintbrush from my spider room and opened my front door again. Entitled neighbor was still stood there looking furious with her son was now completely sobbing. Okay, show me where it was.
I freaking hate you!
Well, maybe you shouldn't steal packages in the first place. Frick around and find out. I couldn't help but smile as entitled neighbor took me into her house and showed me to her living room where my package was on her floor next to a knife that had obviously been used to open it and a container that the tarantula had been shipped in. That is so embarrassing. These people have no shame, less than no shame, with a knife that you open the package with right on the floor in your own living room on a package obviously not assigned to you. These kind of people, man. Thankfully, the tarantula was simply hiding under her sofa, and I was able to get it to come out with my handy paintbrush and caught it in the catch cup. I put it back into its shipping container, then picked up my package. Me, got her.
Finally! Now get that thing out of my house. It terrified my sons and I am arachnophobic. Don't you freaking dare get any more of those things.
Excuse me, you're the one that opened the package that was mine even after I came to collect it. Entitled neighbor looked shocked.
Yes, well, my son likes to open packages and I thought it was another one of those gadgets you get. He loves to play with them.
So you admit letting your son open your neighbor's packages to just frolic with them. Wow. I mean, I'm not sure if anyone would ever bother pressing charges about this, but this sounds like really, really illegal and very knowingly as well. I laughed, as she obviously hadn't realized that she had just admitted to stealing my previous packages. FYI, I work for a company that sends me product prototypes. So you have been stealing from me. I swear, if you ever open one of my packages again, I am getting the police involved and having you charged with theft. Before she could say anything else, I pushed past her and went back home. Thankfully, the tarantula was unharmed and has happily settled into her new enclosure. Since then, I have contacted every courier service in my area and demanded that they never leave anything at her address again. There has been one incident where a package from work was delivered to her, but as soon as I knocked on her door, she just handed me the unopened box and closed the door in my face. Much to her son's disappointment of his yelling was anything to go by. What an entitled brat as well. This mom enabled their son to believe they're in the right for opening other people's packages. That is wild. Moral of the story is don't open someone else's package. It might just contain giant spiders. Edit, added tarantula attacks picture. Comment from OP, she's doing very well. She's now known as the Karen Slayer. Okay, a little bit of an arachnophobia warning. I'm gonna show the picture because it's just really cute and wholesome ending to the story. Look at this one. Look at this good fluffy boy. It's such a good little spooder. My new beautiful T-Vagans female that survived a Karen attack. Well, not only survived a Karen attack, also traumatized a Karen back. Oh, yes indeed.
You lost a lot of weight.
I have always been insecure about not being able to gain weight. I naturally look almost Dyslexia, please! Emancipate, that's not the... It's not emancipated, no. Emaciated. Is that a word? I wouldn't... My dyslexia tells me maybe. Anyway, and unhealthy. And had finally made it to my goal. Looking healthy and strong. Well, about 2 to 3 months ago, I got incredibly sick with a stomach virus and was hospital bound. Kidney almost failed, lost 20 pounds immediately. I looked like a walking skeleton, still trying to gain it back. Once I was back into the public world, a lot of people would comment, but mainly with concern, so I let it slide. My first day back to work as a server, a regular customer decided to comment. I mean, even if it's with concern and stuff, I can see it being nice, but I don't know, the times where I have gone through stuff in life and it affects how you look, you're pretty aware of it, right? Like, that's the thing. I've always been very careful with commenting on things, unless it's something very obvious. You either know, for example, that a person is trying to lose weight and they actually did it, or, for example, if you know that someone is on an intense gym program, you're like, damn, bro, you got buff. You know, something where you know they have a clear trajectory, because otherwise you can very easily, like, try to compliment them for something that is actually something very negative. But anyway, back to the story, shall we? My first day back to work as a server, a regular customer decided to comment. Before I could even take his order, he goes, "Wow, you lost a lot of weight!" Had the most judgmental look on his face. This was annoying, as I was already very insecure about it. I looked at him with a customer service smile, and I said, "I know, I was hospitalized and almost died 3 weeks ago. It was incredibly traumatic, but thanks for commenting on my weight." Needless to say, he and his entire group of friends got wide-eyed and immediately started apologizing. Not the best story on here, but was satisfying to make him feel the guilt. Moral of the story, skinny birches like me can be insecure with weight comments too. I think in general, honestly, it's good to like keep comments like that to people you know better and people you know are like actively trying to achieve it. If someone has lost weight, for example, and you know they're specifically trying to lose weight, like knowingly, then it's something you compliment them on. If someone is trying to grow bigger or gain muscle at the gym or something, complimenting them for that when you know that's the journey they're on is also a good thing, like positively endorsing it. Otherwise, it's very easy to kind of just slip and fall into these kind of holes where it's like, "Ooh, maybe you don't want to poke that, bro. Oh, damn." Yes, I am sure I'm in the right restroom, Gertrude. I was reading another post here that reminded me of something that happened a few years ago, so I figured I would post mine thing too. For reference, I am agender but was AFAB. I haven't had any sort of gender-affirming surgery yet. I have large bobs, but also hirsutism due to PCOS, which also makes me grow facial hair. Shaving is a pain in the butt, so I usually don't bother. Because I still have all the original plumbing intact, if I can't find the gender-neutral restroom, I tend to use the ladies. This sometimes gets me some looks, but usually people are more concerned with their own business. I was out shopping, don't remember where, probably Target or something, and I needed to use the restroom. Of course, no neutral toilets to be found, so into the ladies I went. It was empty when I went in, so I did my business and went to wash my hands. This is what I was doing when this older woman came in. She stopped in her tracks and gave me a long look. Being the anxious wreck I am, I avoided her gaze until she decided to speak up.
Are you sure you're in the right place? This is the women's room.
Something in her tone just flipped a switch in me. I turned off the water, grabbed a paper towel, and looked this old lady right in the eye. Last time I checked, unless you think I should have changed my tampon in the men's room instead, she got red, apologized, and disappeared into a stall. I wasn't actually on my period at the time, but I figured it would make my point for me. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened again, but at least now I know what to say if it does. Not as intense or dramatic as some other stories, but there you have it. I've always found gendered bathrooms to be such a non-issue debate. I mean, I remember when I was, for example, at uni, that's probably the place with like the most toilets around, so to say. It was pretty rare that the toilets were gendered. Most of it was just like a row of like stalls, kind of. It's not even really stalls, it's more like small rooms, like with proper walls and stuff, with just regular toilets and a sink inside of them. I think there was like one place where there was like a gendered bathroom, and that was just because it was a urinal for the boys, because it was a place there were often parties at, so, you know, efficiency when people are drinking a bunch of beer and that kind of stuff. But aside from that, it was like never really a problem. So this debate feels very like alien to me, kind of, and it always surprises me that people care so much. Keep pushing? I am trauma dumping. Went to a party. Guy would not take no for an answer. Would not leave me alone. Followed me from room to room, tried to touch me. Not overly naughtily, but clear with intentions, if that makes sense. He kept saying he has condoms if I'm worried about that. So I finally turned and said I can't have kids because I was violently R-worded, in extreme detail because I was getting frustrated, at the age of 7 after my parents passed and I was put in foster care. Maybe just take no as an answer next time, because his face went pale after he left the party. People that are like way too pushy is always like, ugh. If they say no or seem uninterested, that doesn't mean try harder. I know there's like the occasional toxic person on Tinder or whatever, like,
oh my god, they're not trying hard enough. When I say no and block you, you should email me instead.
but this is like 1 in a billion people, right? And they're absolutely unhinged. This should not be taken as a benchmark for like how people act in general or what you should do in flirtatious context or whatever. It's pretty easy to tell when someone is not interested just from the way they act. Do they touch you back? Do they like respond to your questions with follow-up questions about them? Do they seem interested in keeping a conversation going? Do they seek you out even if you get separated for a while at the party? These are pretty good like indicators that someone is interested in you. And if someone keeps literally avoiding you and dodging you and that kind of stuff, this is a pretty clear no, fam. You should probably just like not. Be a sexist boss? Ask a single mother stupid questions? Get gobsmack answered during job interview. One day, I applied for a job at an industrial bakery for special German Christmas cookies called Lebkuchen. My job would be order booking and getting them exported to Australia, USA, Canada, France, and wherever orders come from. I was a single mom with a little boy who stayed with a nanny while I was working. It was so obvious to me that this needed to be stable and fixed first, so to be able to work hands-free. So I was sitting there at my job interview, 3 guys facing me, company boss, HR, and sales boss. All went well so far. We were about to conclude the interview when young company boss asked, "So you got a child? What are you going to do with him when you will be working at our factory?" My CV showed that I was single. Here is what I heard myself grin in his face. "Well, I own a huge wardrobe. In the morning I open the doors, sit him inside, give him a sandwich, and in the evening I take him out again." Company boss opened his mouth, gobsmacked. The 2 other Mickey Mouse at the table were like, Did I actually hear this? Did she really say that? Did she? Heck, don't ask a working woman questions like this if you can't stand the answer. I paused, then smiled and added, "We have a nanny. I couldn't work if I didn't know my son is in good hands during daytime." I have heard afterwards that he never interfered with job interviews again. This is like probably his first interview. And he pops a stupid question, get absolutely trauma-smacked, and then never does it again. Oh no! What made me so angry was that I was highly qualified, and my certificates already showed my very high level of work ethics, and that since my son's birth I had worked for other companies. Then it should be such a non-issue. You know, if you have literally had other jobs, and the kid is getting older as well, which means the less and less dependence, if anything, it should be getting better. I'm not super up-to-date with interview processes, because it's been a while I've been interviewing for a job, because I've just been reading memes for half a decade, but... Last time I spoke to like some friends and stuff about this kind of stuff that were interviewing for jobs, no one has gotten questions like this, and I think it's no longer allowed to ask these sort of questions, at least where I come from. I'm not 100% sure, but it means that we're moving in the right direction, because questions like these are quite invasive, and most of the time they're quite irrelevant. Because a lot of people have kids, a lot of people start families, and most of the time they typically tend to figure it out quite nicely. So, you know, questions like this are just a bit weird, and it's very obvious it's seen as like a negative, you know? So the question has a very bad energy to it. So I'm glad it's being less and less accepted in general to do stuff like this. Brother-in-law gets clowned at Thanksgiving. Ah, Thanksgiving, that time you get together for all those nice little arguments and dramatic stories that you can laugh about a few years down the line or on Reddit. Let's dig into it, shall we? About a dozen years ago, I am then 40, and my wife were having her family at our house for Thanksgiving. We had been married about 5 years with 2 sons. Her parents and 3 adult brothers were there with their families. Brother-in-law was a parole officer at the time. Kind of douchey, recently divorced, and absolutely not used to people pushing back at him. He comments on an abstract painting on the wall after learning I painted it. Brother-in-law: "Oh, I see naughty frustration in this piece." Me: "Yeah, I painted it before I met your sister." His brothers all thought it was the funniest thing they had ever heard. He said nothing. He's always very civil to me now and never gives me poo. We get along just fine, honestly. It sounds like you just passed the test, to be honest. Because sometimes people will like test what kind of BS you will put up with and see how far they can push boundaries and stuff. And sometimes if you put your foot down very early, like this, they won't ever do it again. Because they instantly realize that, oh my god, there is pushback. This person is not one to like mess around with. So that's really funny. Principal said to not tell my parents. When I was in grade 8, we had a group project in which we had to use a video camera to make a commercial. The camera we got already had some footage on it. We were intrigued and watched. It turned out to be the teachers doing a team-building scavenger hunt thing, but with alcohol involved. That sounds so fun though. Got to see a bunch of my teachers liquored up making naughty innuendos and a hilarious clip of my science teacher falling out of a tree drunk. This feels like my uni days in a nutshell. Oh my god, it's amazing. Naturally, we spread this to some close friends and brought them in to also watch the video. 5 people saw the video in total. Word got out and our group got called to the principal office later that day. We were told we were in serious trouble and yelled at a bit. The rest of my group was scared, but I held my ground and told the principal their policy was to send a letter home with us for our parents to sign. I knew this policy as I had done some stuff in the past. Principal got really nervous suddenly and tried reining things in, trying to make up illogical excuses as to why they won't do that, and how we could not share the experience with him or any other classmates, or we would receive greater punishment. Oh yeah, because then the parents have to know like what the whole thing is about, and then maybe they'll see the video too. Oh, that's funny though. That's such a funny story. I said, "Well, you're not punishing us now. Can I expect a letter home if I spread the word?" He got infuriated and shut the conversation down and sent us out saying, "Just don't do it." On the way out, I said loudly, "My parents are going to get a kick out of this." Watched all my teachers squirm for the next few weeks. Also told my parents and had them howling laughing, and witnessed them phone other parents to gossip. That's a school I might want to work for. We never had team building exercises. What country are you in? Canada. It seemed like a thing they must have done before the school year started. No one got in trouble. I just wanted them to feel the heat after we got yelled at, as it felt it was unfair to us kids. Yeah, if they were clumsy and left it on the camera, it feels a bit unfair to like hype it up as punishment for the kids. I suppose I understand it, because as a teacher you probably have like a bunch of kids causing ruckus all the time, so you kind of want to establish that authority and get them to do what you tell them and stuff. But I also understand the motivation with the kid, like, we got yelled at for your stupid mistake, so like now I'm gonna take the piss out of it, you know? But honestly, just sounds like a good vibe overall. Heck yeah, that's the kind of workplace you should have, baby. Dad tried to eat a gift I got from my then husband. My late dad had the thoughts that if something was in his house, it was his. He conveniently forgot that Mom is the one who bought the property and house. It was actually hers. Anyway, my then husband and I were living with them, because hubby had lost his job due to his boss retiring. I was 6 months pregnant. Anyway, I bought a special jar that looked like it had the gourmet jelly beans in it for my husband. I put it on the counter and told Dad not to touch it, that it was a gift for my husband, and that I would be right back to wrap it up. I went to get the supplies and had just come back into the kitchen with the needed supplies. I heard my dad mutter, "It is my house." I didn't try to stop him as I put my supplies on the counter and just watched him. He smirked at me and should have realized something was very wrong. My mom, who was there drinking her coffee, smiled. She knew, but kept her mouth shut. He opened the jar, and his high-pitched girly scream and the massive jump that caused to fall on his butt had me laughing hard. I nearly collapsed on the floor. He was then holding onto his chest and breathing hard. A snake had jumped out along with confetti. He glared at me and called me a birch, which just had me laughing harder. So wait a second, he's so entitled about just munching on stuff that everyone else bought that he very confidently just digs into like a prank jar with a spring-loaded snake. Oh, that is so good. That is such good karma. Mom told him, "When she tells you not to touch something, you should know by now not to touch it. That is meant to scare the crap out of someone, and this place is my house since I bought it with my money. I just let you live in it." I cleaned up everything and put it back in and wrapped it up. When hubby got home, he looked defeated. I gave him his gift, his eyes lit up, and he eagerly opened. I got another girly scream, and then he started laughing. Then I gave him the other gift. I bought 4 bags of gourmet jelly beans since I know my parents love them just as much as my husband and me. I gave my parents each a bag, one for myself and of course hubby. I wanted him to not be depressed that he couldn't find a job just yet. This helped enormously with his mood. But added to the happy atmosphere was the sudden bickering between my parents. Mom didn't think he deserved his bag and was demanding that he give it back. He was telling her not to lay her filthy hands on his bag, and actually hugging his bag to the chest, and then growled at her. She gasped in mock outrage. "Oh, you did not just growl at me!" She tried to snatch it from him and he took off running. She chased him. My husband and I found that funny, especially when Dad shouted, "Woman, keep away from my darn bag!" I was gasping for air and had tears running down my face and laughed harder when she started cussing him out in Spanish. I know one was pendejo. That's idiots. I think that's how it's spelled. She lied to Dad and told him it was Spanish endearment. I mean, can be, I suppose. Oh, that is so funny. That story just makes me kind of happy. Just like kind of wholesome family bickering that is just funny and just, oh, that's so good. That is so good. This is good vibes, man. Mother-in-law told my daughter that Santa isn't real. So I told her that God isn't real. We're not holding any punches today. My mother-in-law doesn't like me at all. She's one of the typical moms who doesn't want her son to be stolen away by another woman. That seems like, what's the reverse of mommy issues? Son issues? Is that a thing? It sounds like that. So my existence alone is enough for her to resent me. It doesn't help that I don't practice our religion and that we don't plan on baptizing our children. This is a mutual decision between my husband and I. For a little extra context, she sends me Bible verses and quotes about being subservient to your husband on a regular basis to get under my skin. I swear to God, people just text you random Bible verses, especially with this kind of stuff, like, "Thou wife shall be a doormat in thy house as thine husband." Cease! If I want a 2,000-year-old text to dictate my marriage, I will do so on my own accord. God. After telling her very nicely and calmly to stop once, she had a full-blown meltdown and tantrum about how I won't let her save me. So I just ignore her messages now. Ah, yes indeed. Please rescue me, kind woman, by spamming me Bible verses on WhatsApp. That's great, especially regarding the subjects that I shouldn't have my own agency and my husband should decide everything. Oh no. I mean, at this point, I suppose you should be grateful if she doesn't try to save you, because that doesn't seem very productive, does it? My daughter, 4, loves Christmas. I mean, as most 4-year-olds should, right? She loves decorating the house and helping bake the cookies, and she gets to pick the tree out this year. She is so excited, it's literally so adorable, and she's been talking about it since July. That is so cute. I got to play Santa last Christmas for my nephew. That was absolutely amazing. He was a bit skeptical at first, but once he realized Santa had a bunch of gifts, it was all of a sudden very fun. And then he kept asking when Santa was coming back for like 2 weeks after Christmas. That was amazing. She is also a very firm believer in Santa. Yes, the one true religion. She already has a mile-long list of things she wants him to get her. Side note, she isn't spoiled at all. Some of the things on her list are random items she sees at the grocery store on things on our shelves. Our dog that we've had for 6 years is on her list. She just likes writing them, aka making me write them. Yeah, sounds about on par with the 4-year-old, doesn't it? My mother-in-law was over today, and my daughter was asking me to add another random item to her Santa list. As my mother-in-law heard her say it, she immediately responds to her saying Santa isn't real. Come on, really? You're so petty? You need to destroy Christmas for a 4-year-old? How petty do you have to be? I mean, even if the interfamiliary squabbles were justified, even then that doesn't justify bringing a 4-year-old into it. Are you kidding me? That is the pettiest shit I've read all day, and we're like on a really petty subreddit. Come on now. She immediately responds to her saying that Santa isn't real, and that me and my husband are the ones who buys the gifts under the tree. This obviously went over like a lead balloon with my child, but my mother-in-law looked pretty happy with herself for the poo storm she just created for me and for breaking my daughter's heart. I immediately told her to pack her poo and to get the frick out of my house and that she wasn't welcome near my baby anymore. She tried to respond that she did us a favor and that our child shouldn't be thanking a man who doesn't exist for the nice things we do for her. So I responded that it was a rich statement coming from someone who spent their entire life praying to a man who also doesn't exist. Oh my god. Really getting into it. Jesus Christ. I also told her I was very sorry she let the devil breed hate in her heart. Then I slammed the door in her face. I think people are allowed to believe what they want to believe. I know plenty of people that have found a lot of comfort or community or positive things regarding religion, and it's also very closely tied to culture a lot of the time, or community, for example. So I think people should be allowed to do what they want, and especially when it's done in a positive way. But I think when you get to the point that you, like, take pride in ruining the happiness of a simple Christmas for your 4-year-old grandchild, then you've kind of, like, gone astray. This isn't love or wholesome religion anymore. This is just you being a petty asshole, and you're using your belief system or whatever to justify being that petty asshole. And you make other people in your belief system look bad as well, because this is what you're presented with. You're just being a po to everyone. God. And also, I have seen some posts online of people being, like, genuinely upset that people tell their kids Santa isn't real because it was so traumatizing when people found out Santa wasn't real or whatever. I don't know, fam. I think the happiness of thinking Santa was real when you were young takes out any sadness of realizing it wasn't. But also for me, how I figured out at least that Santa wasn't real was that I personally busted my parents. I was getting to the age where I started to suspect Santa wasn't real. I was like 22 maybe, and then I stayed up purposefully during the night to be like, haha, it was you all along, to be like a little detective. So that was kind of a fun game in of itself. I got to, like, figure it out on my own. So I don't have any, like, bad memories of it at all. So I mean, subjective experience all in all, but I don't think it's like an inherently bad thing to do, you know? Husband is completely on my side and is completely shattered that his mom ruined something so special for our daughter. But we've received a few texts and calls from his siblings who think I was out of line and that I should be apologizing to her. Yeah, those siblings can go screw themselves. What the hell? After what she did to her own grandkid? Come on, they can't be serious. I am still so angry, and I can't really judge for myself if I'm in the wrong or not. No, you're definitely not. She started it by being a petty pile of poo-poo to her grandchild because she doesn't just like you inherently. Like, there is such a thing. Here's the thing about being an adult, right? One thing, and this is something the internet misses as well with all the beef and bullshit I see on Twitter and social medias, it is okay to not like someone just because you don't enjoy their vibe. I have met plenty of people in my life who I don't really enjoy spending time with. It doesn't mean I hate them. It doesn't mean I wish them bad. It just means that, maybe we are just too different. Maybe we have different sense of humor, too different interests, or we just don't have that kind of chemistry, and it makes it a bit stiff and not enjoyable and stuff. That is perfectly fine. If she's just like, I'm not a bestie with my daughter-in-law, which is a shame, of course, you want to get along with your family as well as possible, but, you know, if it's just not your chemistry and stuff and there's no real reason to hate someone, you know, they should be adult enough to just recognize that and be like, at least no one is a bad person, they're taking good care of my grandkids, they're good to my kid, and it seems to be a happy marriage and whatever. I can live with this being slightly stiff or there not being, like, my personal taste in person, you know, that is perfectly fine. But instead you make it so personal, you have to spam them with shit to get under their skin, be petty and ruin Christmas for their child, which is also your grandkid. Like, you have the emotional maturity of a petty 13-year-old. But I really don't think I am in the wrong. I think she crossed an uncrossable line and that I am justified in not letting her have a future relationship with my daughter or any other children we might have later. Yeah, if she's so petty that she will just destroy happiness for them like that, just on a whim, I wouldn't really want them close to my kids either. It seems like a net negative. In the comments, one thing I cannot wrap my mind around, besides the obvious point that your mother-in-law is a raging hellbeast, what kind of a-holes would defend a woman who ruined Santa Claus for a 4-year-old? The siblings really believe their mother did nothing wrong? Really? I'd be on the warpath against all of them. I would make what Sherman did to Atlanta look like the Merry Maids. I'll make Facebook posts, put up flyers in her neighborhood, warn her church friends to not let her around their grandkids because she likes to ruin Santa. Every single person who know her as the grandma who ruined Santa for a small child to punish her daughter-in-law. I would scorch the freaking earth and salt it behind me. I agree. Yes, indeed. Yes, I definitely agree. Especially since he's hyping up other family to come at them and be like, you should apologize and No, let them stand for their BS. Yes, indeed, call it out. Manager, S-aid worker in a foreign company, experienced consequences of those actions. This reminds me of something a coworker told me. He previously had a job in the European HQ of a large Japanese company. He told me how that company came to introduce a mandatory cultural sensitivity training for all Japanese managers before their deployment to Western countries. The company would often send young hotshot managers to foreign locations to get some international experience before they climbed to the higher rungs of the corporate ladder back home. These guys had a reputation for having a rather outdated attitude towards women, but one guy stood out. He had just arrived in our country and been assigned a tall, blonde, sporty PA, and when he decided not to waste any time and sample the goods.
Is this insinuating what I think it is?
While she stood at the photocopier right at the middle of a large office space, he approached her from behind, grabbed her behind with one hand and the bob with the other, and started to whisper something into her ear. Holy shit, dude! This in the middle of an office. Are you kidding? Oh my god! Much to his surprise, she did not just freeze up and suffer through this molestation, but instead turned around forcefully, sending him reeling, and clocked him right in his stupid face, hard enough to lay him out for a moment. When he got up, he started screaming that she was fired and would regret laying a hand on him. Went to his office and called HR to have her escorted from the building. The guy was in for a few more surprises when HR went into "oh crap" mode and immediately started questioning both of them separately as well as the witnesses from the office. Things that guy learned that day: a lot of women around here don't take poo if you behave like a caveman. Punching a molester in the face is perfectly acceptable and counts as self-defense. If they are grabbing you in intimate areas or being physical in that way, yeah, it's perfectly reasonable to defend yourself. My god. For this dude to be like, and then fight him. So you try to molest someone, you get punched in the face for it, which is very rightfully so. It's just self-defense. You can't handle being punched in the face because you're a little wuss, so then you run to HR and try to get someone fired because they wouldn't be silently molested. Man, I must say, if this person's face is anything similar to their personality, they're the most punchable person in history. Oh my god. You can't just fire someone. You need a good reason that has to be well documented and persist after 2 write-ups, unless it's something really bad, like naughty harassment. Employees around here don't close ranks around their superiors out of some antiquated sense of loyalty towards their betters. If you pull a stunt like that, expect them to give an accurate witness account. Naughty harassment is not an accepted part of our culture. It is a crime. It is expensive but perfectly doable to get a seat on an overnight flight to Japan on short notice. And it's probably preferable to getting a visit from the police who will confiscate your passport until you can stand trial. Oh my god, he fricked around and found out really fast, like instantly. Man, I love that. This is the kind of instant karma that I believe makes the world a better place. Or at the very least, it is incredibly satisfying. After a short investigation, HR alerted upper management to put that idiot onto the next flight back home, so he would be gone by the time the police showed up, since the victim was planning to go to the police the same day. A few weeks later, the replacement brought in from Japan, a likable guy who was well received, told the team over lunch that the whole affair had basically ended his predecessor's career, and corporate had decided to introduce the mandatory cultural sensitivity training. I mean, it's so far over the line though, because in contexts like this, right, it's not even only naughty harassment, which is really bad enough, you know, that's really freaking bad. It's also like a dominance behavior, because it's also a bullying strategy. You're pushing this person down, hoping they will be silent about it, and then for the people around you to close ranks. So it's like naughty harassment, it's bully behavior, and it's like a way to push others down and like be superior to them in a social context. So it's really nasty on like a few different levels, and I'm very glad he found out very swiftly and very violently. But you are still a girl, right? Not for long. Hi everyone, I was reminded of this while watching The Click.
Oh, I watch him too sometimes. He's mildly entertaining.
So I thought maybe it could go here. A few years ago, I was at home when I received a phone call from a private number. I answered thinking that maybe it was my grandma, since her phone number is private. I remember answering and asking if everything was okay, but all I heard was silence. And then I heard what until this date is the most creepy voice coming from a man saying, "Hi, real name, would you like me to eat your butt?" I think I was in shock, since I was not expecting neither my real name or the vulgarity of that phone call. So I just answered, "What the frick? Who is this?" Oh, one good tip though, and this is very common from scammers nowadays, never answer with your name when you answer your phone. So for example, what I do when I answer my phone nowadays is I never answer like, "Hi, this is Click." I never say my name, because one thing some scammers will do is repeat your name back at you a couple of sentences later to like catch you off guard, sort of. So maybe they got it from the fact that you answered with your name. Don't know for sure though. If they already have your number, it's probably pretty easy to find your name too, which is another smart thing to do. Unlink your number from your name and all like phone lists and stuff, and you can pretty easily request takedowns and that kind of thing. Anyway, that's just internet safety standards. Let's get on with the story. And he answered with the same question, if I wanted him to eat my butt. But then he doubled down with, "This is real name, right? I really want to eat that tasty butt and those legs." I was disgusted, confused, and overall mad. I didn't know this person, they call me by name, and I felt awful, since it was for me the equivalent of being catcalled inside of my own house. A normal person would have hung up the phone, but in that moment, ding! Idea! For context of why this idea worked so well, I live in Costa Rica, and over here my country is still not very LGBTQ+ friendly. As in, the worst nightmare of an average male Costa Rican are trans people, drag queens, but specifically trans women. Like, it wasn't just senseless hate, they truly fear the idea of dating or liking trans women and not realizing that they are trans. I could tell you about the hundreds of comments I heard both in high school and in college of boys being worried that they could no longer tell if a person was trans or not, and they didn't wanted to ask, I guess, and quote, "Date a guy with boobs?" So that was my idea. I decided to weaponize that. So I went, "Well, soon I will be known as Carlos, so I don't know if you're into that." But right now you're a girl, right? Not according to the surgery and the medication starting next week, no. He hung up, and I started to laugh my butt off. I couldn't believe that actually worked. It's sad that transphobia saved the day in a way. In the end, I didn't know who this creep was or how he knew my name. I concluded that maybe it was a delivery driver or someone from Uber Eats or something who maybe saw me and saved my name and phone number. Ever since that day, I've been using a fake name in those apps, so if anything happens again, I can know who they are. But I'm happy to inform that I haven't received a call like that ever since, and hopefully it stays that way. I would say it's really good to stay safe, because if someone is that weird about it, they might be hateful and violent in other ways, although this just sounds like a creepy coward who just had their crap called out, basically. But one really good way for internet safety is to not answer any phone calls you don't recognize with your name, because like I said, scammers who don't have all your information can use that against you, and also contact phone books and stuff online, because taking information down from online platforms is pretty easy to do nowadays. You can send in those kind of requests pretty much on any platform. It takes a bit of time to clean out, because usually it's in a few different places, but it can very much be done. Well, laddies, lasses, and lassos, I do hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed having you here, you wonderful, beautiful beans, and I will see you again in the very near future. Take care. Mwah.